Well, it's a bit of a gloomy and damp Sunday, damp weekend actually. Anyway, we were lucky yesterday to get a break in the weather to do the car, so that's done, thankfully, to my mates. So again, anyway, we were talking, and I know this sounds a bit clever of us, I know, but I was chatting with mate Andy, and he said, "Oh, everybody seems to be thick," you know, and they do. Anyway, it reminded me of a boating tale, right? And that's why I've titled this "The Worst Boat Trip Ever," because what happened was, I was on the forum, and then long before, you know, Facebook and YouTube and things like that, we're on boating forums, and someone came along that they'd bought a boat. I think it was at Stoke-on-Trent. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it was anyway. And they'd bought it to put in a field at Northampton to live on. And I think he was Australian, and he was Australian, but he wanted it as a home here, because he spent time here, you know. So it's a long while ago, this is. I mean, I don't know just when it was, but anyway. And the boat it had no windows in. It was a narrowboat, by the way, not a fairly small narrowboat, not a narrowboat. It could have been a wide beam. Can't remember. Anyway, there was nothing inside it, you know. We said that, so I thought, well, you know, it's a good excuse for me to go boating on different parts of our waterways, you know, and I'd give him a hand to move it, you know. Well, I mean, that's fine, isn't it? So anyway, he agreed to meet us mid-morning, you know, and I got there around about 10ish, I think, in the morning. No sign of him, and the boat, I didn't know what it was. I could see it, and they'd moved it the other side of the canal because he hadn't paid any mooring fees. So anyway, I waited for a bit and talked to the others and mooched across and had a look at it and waited a bit longer. And I sat in the car for a bit, and then of all things, locked myself out of the car, didn't I? So I had to walk to a field and find a bit of barbed wire to get a bit of wire to break into my car. That was an amusing thing. Anyway, finally, around 2 o'clock, he rolled up with his wife, and I think he had a daughter, I'm not sure. Now, his wife was alright, make no mistake, but this chap, well, how on earth he had made it, I just don't know. I mean, you talk about clueless. I mean, we were talking about clueless boaters, and I'm not trying to be funny here or clever or call people, it's just how it is, you know. It really was one of the most clueless people I've ever met in my life. For instance, a tiller on a boat, the rudder's on the other end, so to turn right you push the tiller to the left. I mean, it's just an obvious thing. And to get it doing, I noticed he'd written it down, and he drew himself a diagram of a curved line with an arrow each end with left and right on it. You know, I mean, I was beginning to wonder. Anyway, as I say, his wife was okay, so I showed him how to work a lock, because there was a lock fairly near. Oh, and by the way, while I was waiting, it had a large, what you call cruiser stern, and there was a heap of batteries in the back, and it had a BMC 1500 diesel in it, you know. But there was no shape to it. There was no bow and stern. It was just a square, nearly brick shape with rounded corners, right? So anyway, I found a bit of wire and just put it across the battery, and I found there was a little bit of light in the battery. Looked at the control, because as I say, I was waiting for it, but it must have been 4 hours, you know, so it wasn't the best of starts. Anyway, He gave me the key, and I put it in, and it was a key like a tractor key, and I put it in and turned it and heated it, and it started up okay. So that was okay. Anyway, I took the ropes off, and they walked up to the lock and showed them what to do to open the gates, and went back to the boat and took the ropes off and went into the lock. And as I say, his wife was, you know, perfectly all right and nice person, you know. Anyway, we set off, and obviously I was driving, you know, that was what I was there for, and I didn't mind at all, and it was all right. So we set off, and after a while I showed him how to work the controls, you know, and well, I showed him at the next lock. There was quite a few locks to go, and I can't even remember the name of the canals, but we had to go to a junction or two junctions and turn left on the Coventry Canal, the Oxford Canal, not the Coventry, the Oxford Canal, the bit with no locks until you get to the end. So anyway, as I say, we set off and we got to, I'm not sure which, it could have been Fradley Junction or Paisley, one of those two. Anyway, we moored up for the night there, and went to the pub, and I said, oh, do you want a beer, you know? And he said, well, no, I don't drink. So I bought myself a beer, and I even had to pay for my own meal. I mean, you know, you can't make it up, can you? And of course I'd travelled a long way, you know, at my own expense to help him. Anyway, that was the first day over with, and he had got the hang of locks. That's one good thing. He got the hang of locks. And so he did all the heavy work and I did the driving, which suited me down the ground. Anyway, next morning when we set off, I said, right, we can set off. And the first thing he did, you can't believe it, he pushed the blooming tiller wrong way. Remember, he'd been driving it the day before, been steering it the day before. He pushed the tiller wrong way, and he was going to steer straight into another blooming narrowboat and probably knock them flying. I mean, they were living on it, you know. Anyway, I rushed and grabbed the lever and put it in reverse, which is how you stop the boat, and managed to avoid a collision. And so, now boating, by the way, it is a contact sport, make no mistake. You know, we see quite a lot, especially, you know, you get a 60-ton narrowboat, hit a bridge hole at 6 mile an hour or 4 mile an hour, it jets the ground a bit, but they survive, right. Anyway, next day we set off again. He had you call them porta potties for the toilet, right? There was nowhere to empty it, and that was full. Wonderful, right? You had to go in the edge bottom. It no gas, so I couldn't have a cup of tea. I mean, it was getting a little bit too silly. This was a little bit too silly. So anyway, we set off and we came to some locks, and somebody it had collapsed. The bottom sill, which is the bit that holds the water in, the lock gates had collapsed, and they were mending it. So we had quite a long wait there. Anyway, I got talking to another chap on a smallish narrowboat, and he'd been a stock car driver, so we had a good chat, like, you know, and I didn't mind. It was a nice day. That wasn't a problem in the slightest. So when they got going, when they got the locks mended, I went in with this other boat, and we were what you call proper locking. In other words, a narrowboat has a big rope fender on the front end, and I put mine against his, and we were both flat out pushing the gates to get through as quick as possible, right? Anyway, he set off a bit faster than us, and a little while later I came across him on the riverbank, and I said, oh. So I stopped because I hadn't had a cup of tea all day, right? And I said, I should have asked you when we were at the blooming lots waiting. Can I have a cup of tea, please? He said, of course, you know, so I stopped there. Anyway, I went back to the boat, and the owner was still here with us, obviously. And I went back to the boat and went to start it up, and the starter juddered and a cloud of smoke come out the engine hole underneath. So, I said, that always happens to me. Never mind, mate. So I rang one of my friends up who came. There was a road in it. I walked up to a road, right, not far, you know, and I had Barney with me, of course. It was in those days. And I walked up the road, and my friend picked me up and took me back to my car, right? So that was my worst boating we've ever had. I thought you might like the tale. So just to show you things on this damp Sunday, I've been out and I've been to a boatyard just to start the journey off, and I've taken you along some lanes that you haven't seen. So there you go. So just a little boating story for you on this damp Sunday afternoon.